Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Notification volume 0%.
I am going to make a new series on my channel here called basically, I don't know how else to put it, just education. So I haven't named it yet, but something like that. Education of like speaker education or learning about speakers, something like that. Today's video is going to be the anatomy of a speaker. So I'd like to take you through the anatomy of a speaker. Let us first start by basically what the word speaker means. You're looking here at a speaker, in total, a speaker box, okay? You have the, the drivers, everyone knows those, right? And these aren't in the best shape, so don't berate me, please, okay? These speakers have been through quite a bit, so, either way, they were just a good demonstration model for this video. These are what you call drivers. They are called drivers because they engage the air and drive it to your ears to make sound. Okay. The cabinet is the outside of the speaker, obviously, pretty appropriately named, right? It's usually made of some kind of a HDF, which is, like cabinet countertop material. It's made to cancel vibrations, things like that. We've learned a lot over the years when it comes to that. So this is the cabinet, okay? These things you see in front are the drivers. As I've said, these are not called speakers. The total is called a speaker. These are called drivers. These are a cone driver, pretty common. You see them in almost every speaker out there, okay? So this is an electromagnetic cone driver, which was invented in 1921, was when the patent was given to Rice and Kellogg. So they're very old. Of course, we use them for everything. But at the time, we wanted to hear silent films. We wanted to hear people's voices, and we wanted to hear news reports, and that is why speakers were made. It was kind of a space race at the time to basically build something that would turn electricity back into sound, and that's what this does. Your amplifier sends an electrical signal down your speaker wire to this device, and obviously it turns it back into sound. I know a lot of this is very basic. Please don't think I'm Mr. Rogers. I'm just explaining so that those who don't know will know. Okay? So nothing wrong with learning. Either way, this is a driver, all right? Now, the driver has some parts. You see the cone here, the material that the cone is made from. This is like a polypropylene, and again, it's in crappy shape. Please don't, get on me about it. What's around that is called the surround. That's a rubber piece usually that holds the cone to the basket of the driver, which is behind the cone. The basket is that stuff that just about everyone's handled this, a speaker driver at some point. So you've seen a driver, and there's like a magnet structure and stuff. The basket is what holds the cone and the surround to the magnet structure in the back, the actual motor. Okay, so anyway, there's that. You also see a tweeter down here. It's kind of a soft dome tweeter, and then you see another driver. When you have mid-range woofer, tweeter, and then mid-range woofer, we call this a Diapolito arrangement because it was made by a guy named Diapolito. So either way, the front plate of the speaker is called the baffle plate. This is where the drivers rest, okay? So the drivers are attached to the baffle plate, which is the front plate of the speaker. Usually in most speakers, this is the strongest part of that box. The reason why is because of the recoil effect. So when you fire a gun, you are being pushed by the explosive propellant that pushes the projectile out of the weapon, okay? So it pushes back against you because they're both wanting to split both ways at the same time, at the same velocity. But because there's gravity, we live on Earth, we don't live in space, the bullet takes off at, a great deal of that speed while you get pushed back just a little bit. Depending, of course, also on recoil control. In other words, things that are meant to slow that process down or stop it as much as you can, like springs and things like that. So either way, this is very much the same. It pushes against the cabinet, okay? So it's being pushed and pulled pretty quickly. And, in some of these speakers, man, can really get moving, and they will very violently move back and forth. This creates a greater recoil effect. So usually the baffle plate is very, very thick to withstand the forces of the driver pushing and pulling back against it. In some cases, we have made up other things to control that, like two drivers, a driver here in front and a driver on the other side of the cabinet, back there on the other side of the cabinet, to push back against it in equal and opposite force. And that will cancel those vibrations. So that actually helps. But either way, these are certainly not that sophisticated. But you have the baffle plate again, okay? You have the sides, you have the top, the bottom. Those are all pretty much straightforward named. You have the crossover inside, which is like the conductor of an orchestra. Your drivers here are like instruments in the orchestra, right? The speaker in total is the orchestra, if you want to call it that, right? The crossover is the conductor, telling each of these drivers when to come in and how loud to play, right? Also protecting them from things like over wattage, running too much wattage through it and all this stuff. So they protect the drivers, but they also tell the drivers when to come in and how loud to play, so that the balance coming off of it sounds like a cohesive, correct sound wave. It sounds like music. It doesn't sound like something really, really strange and electrical sounding. Okay, so without a crossover, these would all just play at massive volume, and it wouldn't sound right. So the crossover is the conductor of the orchestra, and it's very important. The crossover usually is directed, obviously connected directly, directly connected to the drivers and directly connected to the terminal, which is the thing on the back where the wires go. Okay, so that's where the electricity comes in. Electricity first hits the crossover and then is distributed out to the drivers respectively. So that is the anatomy of the speaker. And remember, again, we call the entire thing the speaker, not just that thing, right? And not the cone. That's a cone driver. It isn't the speaker. The entire thing here is the speaker. Okay, this happens to be an Infinity, and as I said, it's older. Don't give me crap, okay? So I just figured it'd be good for demo. But that's it. So I like to help people out. If you have any questions, of course, ask me, but I'm going to make more videos, so stay tuned.
Stop button.